welcome everybody tonight to our sixth PR workshop of the year, of the Rotary year. And tonight we have a very special guest. We have Liz Chum, who is the global advisory of Rotary brand. So she works for Rotary International and supports this brand element worldwide. She focuses on ensuring that our members and our staff are using Rotary's visual identity and Rotary Marks correctly and consistently. And she's been with Rotary since 2008, and she has been in this role since 2018. She lives outside of Chicago with her husband and two sons. And tonight she's going to give us a great detailed presentation on Rotary International's branding. So Liz, you can take it away.
Great, thanks so much. Thanks for having me. The format basically is that I'll share my presentation, and if you have questions, feel free to pop them in the chat. And then as we get going, we'll take your questions coming through the chat, and then at the end, we'll definitely have some time to answer questions. Because really, I think what works best, and I've done this course quite a bit with districts, clubs, and zones, is that I present the content and then we talk about like specific case scenarios where you guys are, dealing with these issues. So with that being said, I'm gonna put you guys over there. All right, are you seeing my head slide again? Or now is this the notes? We're good. Okay.
No, that's the slide.
Okay, great. So tonight, the presentation is going to be focused on Rotary's logos and specifically how the clubs should be using the logos. And then we'll touch a little bit too on the licensing aspect of the logos and give you some information in that realm. So I like to start really at the basics and at the foundation of our visual identity. And this page basically is the main logos of Rotary International. Both the master brand signature and the master brand signature simplified are our main and official logo. And the mark of excellence is what you might consider a secondary logo. And we'll talk a little bit later about what that means. But if you've been in Rotary for a while or you've been familiar with Rotary before you joined, you'll know that our previous logo was just the wheel, and it had two colors in it. It was blue inside and a yellow wheel. And in 2013, we rebranded and moved from just the round circular logo to the master brand signature, and that composes the word mark Rotary plus the wheel. The two should never really be separated, much like any other trademark or logo. We don't ever want to mess with our logo. And like Dan shared, I've been here since 2008, so I know that clubs like to do that. So tonight, hopefully, I'm presenting some content that makes it the expectations of how to use our like most valuable asset, how to use it correctly, because when all clubs are using it correctly, it's just going to make our brand that much stronger. So you'll see the difference between the master brand signature and the simplified, of course, is that the words Rotary International don't appear inside the wheel. That wheel looks a little more stylized and maybe modern. And you'll also notice that we do not have a simplified version of the mark of excellence. And I've been seeing that lately online where folks are kind of lobbing off that wheel and using it. And I really, we have to kind of stop the uses of that when we see it, because that's not even one of our official trademarks. So that being said, when we rebranded, what I really like, my most favorite thing about the decisions that were made at that time was that we gave a solution for how all clubs and districts should brand themselves. And it's really quite simple. We add the name of the club to the logo, or the name of the district to the logo, or the name of the zone to the logo. And that's it. We don't add any other embellishments or designs or flair or colors, et cetera, et cetera. And so I would use this opportunity to, take a look at what your club is doing. And if they're still using kind of that old-fashioned, unique logo that maybe somebody in the club created, 30 years ago, now is the time to update your logos so that every Rotary Club in the world has consistent brand identity. And you do this in the brand center, which we'll talk about in a little bit as well. So why is this so important? Number one, you are engaging in protecting Rotary's name and intellectual property. Rotary International owns the RI trademarks and essentially lends them to the club when the club shows their identity within the logo. It can kind of get a little sophisticated or hairy, and some of this it's actually all detailed in the RI Code of Policies. If you like to read policy, it's all there. But essentially, clubs are able to really leverage and use that Rotary logo by adding their club name to it. And that goes for when you're hosting projects or hosting events as well too. You're going to always want to lend your club name to those projects instead of Rotary's name. You always want to show credit and recognize the work that the clubs are doing. And so instead of putting Rotary's RI's logo on an event you're hosting, it makes the most sense to put your club logo on that so that folks in the community realize that this is your local club that's doing this. And then, that next step really is to engage them with your club. And then we start talking about, membership and all those other great things to follow. But it's that first step in ensuring that your club is clearly branded to who you are. And then the third is that if all the clubs do this consistently, we're all telling our story to the world in the same way. We're all presenting that same identity to the world. And as you know, like, a brand is so important these days. And like, I've got 2 young kids, they can spot a fake brand in a second, right? Or a ripoff of something in a second. And so when we're kind of using those homemade logos, people interacting with us that don't really know what Rotary is, like, there's a gap there between what my local club is doing and what Rotary International is doing, or maybe the logos that I saw, on a road trip somewhere else. And so it can be a struggle for the general public to understand how we're all tied together when there's hundreds or thousands of different logos out there. So here's some things to keep in mind as you go about this work. We've already covered this, adding your identifier to the logo. I have an example too of how Rotaract clubs do the same, and Interact clubs do the same as well with their logo. When you create the logo in the brand center template, the alignment and the fonts and the sizes all line up for you there. So please go to the brand center templates to create those fonts. To create those logos, instead of like cutting and pasting different fonts with club names into the Rotary logo. And if we have time tonight and you want to take a look at the brand center, I'm happy to do that too. So these are good, just a rule of thumb. We're never going to want to obscure the logo or the wheel. We don't want to show a partial wheel. We're not going to manipulate it. We're not going to put the wheel, we're not going to use it as an object like a zero or like a tire. And we're not going to make it a subordinate part of another larger logo. Don't add other graphics around the logo to show your own, unique style. This is really just creating, another logo within a logo. And like I mentioned previously, we rebranded 11 years ago. So now is absolutely the opportunity to go through and do an audit of sorts. Look at where your logos appear, especially in the digital environment, and start there to update the logos. So making sure your website is correct, making sure your social media accounts are correct. And then from there, considering what kind of signage you take with you every year to maybe an annual event that you host in your community, updating those signs. We know that not everybody has budgeted for this change, even though it has been 11 years. So, start slowly if you need to, set aside funds every year if you need to kind of make those changes. And things like, the badges that you wear in your club at meetings, yes, eventually you would do those, you would update those. Maybe when you need to order new ones for new members, make sure that you're ordering from our licensed vendors and that they, have the new logos on them. But my point is that if you still need to rebrand as a club, that you should first look in your digital realm, because that's usually the easiest and the least expensive way to update. And then from there, update the things that the public is coming in contact with more often. So this is a visual example of what I was describing before when clubs are kind of creating their own unique logos for their clubs or their initiatives. Or their banners or T-shirts or whatever it may be. I think we as members of Rotary, or me as the staff of Rotary, right? We all know this is Rotary. Like, this makes sense to us. This looks creative and kind of fun to us. But somebody who's not familiar with Rotary, this is very confusing. And it is like inside baseball, right? Like, it just doesn't resonate the way that I think we think it does. And so instead, using these logos, the system that we have to create the logos is really the only way to go. And here is then examples of what we call lockups. And that just essentially means that you are joining your club logo with another logo. And that other logo would be for partners in your community that you're doing something with. It would be a logo or a name for an event that you're hosting, that your club hosts, partners events, your project, your key projects or programs that you run through the club. These are the opportunities to join your club logo, which is always going to be your main identity, with this secondary identity. Even if you're doing like your 100-year club anniversary, that's considered an event. And so over on the right, you'd put 100, celebrating 100 years, or maybe somebody made a cute little logo, a 100 anniversary logo. You could put it over there. Again, these lockup logos are also created in the brand center. And then those two on the bottom, you'll see that there are no club or district names added to them. And that's because those are official Rotary action groups and official Rotary fellowship logos of Rotary International. And they get to enjoy the use of that master brand logo for their official logo. It's a lot of information. I'm happy to go over it again as we get going. And then I want to touch on the licensing aspect. And I want to touch on this because having been in this role for about 5 years or so, and been at Rotary for 15 years, I think we are all very familiar with folks that show up to events that are wearing, something really, maybe not wild. I don't know if the word is wild, but something branded that you just know isn't quite right. And that's probably because they went to a vendor, probably just in their community, and they found some art on Google and they got something made because they think it looks cool, right? This happens all the time, and I totally get it. And it's usually happens because folks just aren't aware that the RI logo is a protected trademark, and when we're reproducing it, it needs to be reproduced by somebody who has either permission from RI or a license with us. We have RI licensed vendors all over the world, but we also have an option for you to work with your local vendor and them to just simply reach out to us and request an exception. It's like a one-time licensing exception, and it's free and it's pretty quick. The artwork that you want to create needs to be submitted with the request. But that way you're going to ensure that what you're producing is, first of all, on brand, and secondly, that you've received that licensing permission. So that is my plug for ensuring that the stuff that you're buying, which I know is like a huge investment for clubs, right? To ensure that that it is aligned with our correct branding. And I can share the link to that request in the chat too, and I can follow up. So that is a lot of content to go through, but I'm open for questions now, and I can go through these resources that I talked about quickly too. So when I mentioned the Brand Center, some folks might not be familiar, but Rotary International hosts a microsite called the Brand Center, brandcenter.rotary.org. And there you'll find everything related to our brand. And I would say if you're not finding something there related to our brand, don't use it. Like, don't go to Google and look for stuff because it probably isn't aligned correctly with the brand, and folks have manipulated stuff and posted it online. There's so much more than just what I discussed here tonight in the Brand Center. There are brochures for clubs. There's videos there. We just added some training PowerPoints there. There's people of action materials. There's a ton of imagery that has already been vetted through for use. Like it received use permission to be used. So everything that you want to know that's related to our brand is going to be at Brand Center. In the Brand Center, there is one PDF called Your Logos at a Glance, and that discusses everything that I went through with you tonight. It's a real quick and easy PDF. And I would find it and print it and hang it up at your desk. And I'd also share it with your club public image chairs. And I'd also hand it out at events, pets, whatever you're going to. Like, it's a great handout piece that really reiterates the correct use of the club logos, essentially. I had talked about our code of policies, but I have it listed here as well because that's really like the source of all the information that I share tonight. And number 4, the Learning Center, like, I should actually probably add that as number one, because that really goes pretty in depth while not wasting your time into a lot of the content about Rotary's public image. Actually, I mean, in the Learning Center, there's everything there. There's membership courses, foundation courses, strategy, everything is there. But if you have a role in public image, I highly, highly suggest that you take those courses. There's a lot of really rich information there, and you'll just be better equipped in your role. You also have, of course, your district public image chair, and then your regional public image chairs. And then you can contact me at brand@rotary.org, and I'm happy to help you too. So with that,
Liz, we have a question from our past district governor, Dan Goodrich.
Okay, great. Hi, Dan.
Hi, thank you very much, Liz, for being here tonight.
Sure.
Just a simple question. How much does it cost for a license?
That's a really great question. I'm not the licensing person, so I'm not sure. I've heard that it's a bit pricey in the sense that you're going to want to do a lot of business with Rotary if you want to get licensed, right? So if somebody like Russell Hampton, like, we are their bread and butter, right? Because they do a lot of stuff. There are smaller ones out there that do it. I couldn't even ballpark it for you. I have no idea. But the option that I did discuss tonight for the one-time exception, that is free. So if you have questions about licensing, though, I can put their contact in the chat here.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Liz, we also have a question from Kevin Taylor.
Hey, Liz. Question for you. I know when this was rebranded years ago and then where we are now, what is the difference between using the club name first or putting it underneath?
Sure.
I've used it both ways, but I wasn't sure if International has a preference.
Yeah. That's a great question. So hidden very deep in some of the information in the brand center, we do say, add your club name as either you have on your charter or as you're known in your community. And so that leaves open the door to actually even leave the word club off if you don't traditionally use the word club. If you say the name of your club like Evanston Lighthouse Rotary Club, then you would be putting Evanston Lighthouse on the top, and then Rotary speaks for itself, and then you put club on the bottom. So it all matters the way like it rolls off your tongue when you say the name of the club. We do not, especially because this is global and it is said in so many different ways throughout the world, structured wise. So we do not dictate which way you create the club logo. We do dictate the district logo. That has to be just the word district and the 4 digits below the logo. But yeah, the club, hopefully that helps with the club.
That does. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, great.
Oh, one more question, if I could. Liz, could you give us an example of an appropriate time to use the mark of excellence?
Yes, that's a great question. Okay, so let's say you're creating a flyer for an event and you're going to prominently brand your flyer with your club logo on it. You can also place the mark of excellence somewhere else on that flyer if you want to. It's not necessary, but sometimes in a design, it might look nice. Some of that's preference. Places where it's appropriate to only use the mark of excellence would be something like on a sign as you enter town, on a sign maybe that shows where your club meets, buying small earrings from a vendor, buying a golf ball. One really good one though is actually the social media profile pictures. So your club's profile picture for Facebook, because it's round, can have the mark of excellence there, but then your Facebook club name has to be the name of your Rotary Club. And sometimes that landscape picture in the back on Facebook, you can put your club logo back there if you want to. So I think also like Instagram has a round profile picture. Those are instances where it's okay to use the mark of excellence. I think
Linda,
Bruce had his.
Oh,
Go.
Bruce?
I do, guys.
Sorry.
Hi, Liz. Thank you for being here.
Sure.
I use the mark of excellence on my plaques and my certificates of appreciation. It works better for the emblem as opposed to putting out the whole Rotary Club. That's okay?
So whenever you get a plaque made, you want to make sure you're doing that with a licensed vendor or your vendor gets a sign off. And during that process, they ensure that you're using the logo correctly. So it's hard for me to say that's okay because I'm not seeing exactly what you're looking at. But that's another great benefit of having that licensing sign off is they check the designs. I would say for your certificate of appreciation, I want to see your club logo on there. That is your club's certificate of appreciation. It's not RI's. And so you want to give that recognition where it's due. You want to show them, hey, this Rotary Club in your community appreciates what you do. Now, if it's some template that you're downloading from RI, which I don't think we have for a certificate, right? If it's your own homemade one, please put your club logo on there.
Linda?
Yeah, if you have 2 Rotary clubs,
Yeah,
doing something, is there a format for? I mean, it gets a little repetitive.
yeah, great question, Linda. So you have a couple options. You can either put the names of both clubs there and just put like an ampersand or the word and. You don't have to repeat both logos on the piece. You don't have to say Rotary Club of blank and Rotary Club of blank in the same logo. Usually what I've seen done, and this can even be up to 3 or 4 clubs, depending on how long the club names are, but I've seen it, it looks pretty nice if you just say the Rotary Clubs of Evanston and Chicago downtown, something like that. It'll all fit in the template, and you can break lines in that template too, so that you can line things up so that it looks a little more visually pleasing. I think that template goes to 4 lines even of content. We left quite a bit in there. Okay, and then I've got another answer for you. If if you are describing a geographic region, so let's say the Rotary clubs of Door County, all the clubs in the county are getting together to do something. For that event, you can create a logo that says Rotary and then underneath Clubs of Door County underneath, and you can use that logo to promote the project that you're all doing together. All of that guidance is found on the Brand Center because there is some specific guidance about using what we call those geographic identifiers. For example, all the clubs in that geography have to be involved, and they should all kind of get the nod and the approval from the leaders in that area. Yeah, you'll just want to check in with the Brand Center to make sure you're meeting that criteria, but that can be a really nice way of concisely identifying who's involved with the project without listing out everybody's club names.
Okay.
And also, people don't know what a district number is outside of Rotary, and so it's another way to describe, a part of a district if you want to.
Thank you.
Sure.
Stephen, did you have a question?
No, actually, it's the same thing Linda asked about
awesome.
multiple clubs as we do here in Palm Springs. We have, just so Liz, we got 13 clubs here in the Coachella Valley. So we do partner on and off or do things, in the valley. And Linda asked the question. So thank you. Thank you,
Perfect.
Liz.
Is it Aisha? Is that? Oh, you're muted.
That was Mr. Manta, but it's just my middle name appearing.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. I have a question. Thank you very much, Dan. I have a question for Liz. Liz, one of the things that I've always wanted to make, you have those horizontal banners that scrolls up and down like lengthwise, and I've always thought of making one that says, like at events, community service, like if you're doing a flower garden project or something in my community, and I've always wanted to make probably a banner that says Rotary International or something like that. Can you make that in the Brand Center?
We don't have templates for roll-up banners in the Brand Center. We don't have those. We don't have a lot of templates for things that you can get created with a licensed vendor. And so my recommendation to you is to reach out to a vendor that creates those signs with the ideas that you have. I mean, if you can reach out to a licensed vendor, that's even better because they're familiar with what you're talking about. But no, we don't have templates as far as I know. I mean, we could search the Brand Center and look. I don't think we have roll-up templates there, though. I'm going to actually go open the Brand Center and just make sure. But I can take some other questions.
Oh, so the better thing to do is to reach out to a vendor with the ID and then probably send it to the brand, send it to you guys to have a look.
Oh, no. Okay, so I think the best thing to do is look at what our licensed vendors offer first. Okay, and if you like what they're doing, just place the order with them.
Exactly.
if it's close to what they're doing, you know, that's, I think where you'll struggle a bit is finding the artwork potentially. I mean, there's a lot of stuff on the brand center, but it's hard for me to say that we're going to find exactly what you have in mind, right? All that being said, though, when you do have a design that you want to get made by a vendor, maybe that's not licensed by RI, here is the request that your vendor should, I put it in the chat. That's the request that your vendor should use to get the licensing permission from us. And then we take a look at the design during that time to make sure that it looks good. But yeah, I don't know if we have roll-up banner templates.
Liz, we had a question from Myra too about if we have a list of vendors
Yes, we
available.
do. And actually, we do have some roll-up banners. My bad. So if you go to the brand center and search roll-up banner, we have some people of action ones in there already. So take a look in the brand center. Okay, so the way I actually find our licensed vendors is just, this is awful, but I Google Rotary licensed vendors and it pops up, and I will put it in the chat. It's in my Rotary though, so you have to be logged in to access this list. But hopefully you all have my Rotary account. So when you're logged in, then you hit that link that I just put in the chat and all of the vendors will show up. All right.
Any other questions out there?
People of action replacing service above self. That's really interesting. I don't think that RI looks at it in that capacity. I think people of action is the way for clubs to show their communities what they do. So if you take a look at all of the materials that have people of action in there, it's supposed to be a way for you to personalize and synthesize what your like telling your club story to the community. So it's not really like a phrase that's replacing a phrase. People of action is much more than just those 3 words. It really is like the vehicle, the catalyst that you guys can use to develop content and develop a lot of like a really nice look and feel to be using in your community to engage people in your community to get involved. You know, service above self, at this point I would consider service above self like Rotary owns that word mark, but you haven't, we don't produce content around that phrasing. There's a lot of things about Rotary that are traditional and that are organic in the clubs, and I would say that that's one of those things at this point.
Stephen?
Yeah, Liz, just to know, our local sheriff's department uses service above self on their cars.
Yeah, so I mean, we do own that. Like if there were to be some instance where we're feeling like people are leveraging that in a way that's trying to kind of infringe on RI's use of it, then, you know, we could get involved. But I could see why it would be on police cars, right?
The sheriff's department.
Oh, yeah. And that's like a whole, actually, that's really the realm that I work in quite a bit more, is protecting the Rotary name. I'd be happy to come back sometime and we can do another discussion about the name, because that is like 2.0. Like tonight we're talking about the logos, but using the name correctly is just as important as the logos. But we'll just let this content sink in. We'll take it easy, but I'd love to come back another time we talk about the use of the name.
Any other questions? Linda?
I don't know if this applies, but, and I know you're not the part of the licensing group, but I went to a vendor in the San Francisco Bay Area
Okay.
to order new street signs for us because ours are faded.
Yeah.
They have the full selection of Rotary items on their website. And
Uh-huh.
I ordered in December and have been totally unable to reach them since. I did finally afterwards. They had done them before whenever the club got them.
Yeah.
But I did finally go to the vendor list to see if they were licensed. They are not on the list now.
Oh, they're not.
But, and they, obviously I haven't gotten my signs. I've now talked to Russell Hampton, so I'm going to have to start the process over. But is there a lot of that goes on? I mean, they also didn't, they haven't charged my credit card, thankfully.
Well, that's
But-
good. I
but-
mean, that's great. I'm so sorry that that's happened to you, Linda, but I also like that's another great reason to use our licensed vendors, because we do have oversight. I don't know if oversight's the right word, but we have a relationship with them, right? So if this were happening with you and a licensed vendor, we can follow up with them right away and see what's going on. So I am sorry to hear that. I don't anecdotally, I haven't really heard stories like that, but I don't think a lot of people admit to me that they're using unlicensed vendors. So that could be part of it. But I'm sorry to hear that.
They were licensed because we'd used them before.
Sure.
And they have a full complement of Rotary paraphernalia on their website.
Oh, then I need to actually know who they are. They're selling stuff on their website and they're not licensed. You want to email me later at brand@rotary.org and we can talk about it? Okay.
Brand@rotary.org. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I think they've probably gone out of business, but I don't know because I can't reach any.
Yeah, I mean, we can figure out if they used to be a vendor and maybe, they just left the website up and it's stagnant. I can figure out some information for you based on who they are. And I mean, if they are selling stuff then and without a license, then we'll take it from there. But
It's
sorry to hear that.
Brand, BRAND @rotary.com.
.org.
.org. And that'll get to you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep, you bet. I'm the only one that manages the inbox. I'm the only one that does this throughout the whole Rotary world. So thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for joining us, Liz. This is pretty awesome to have Rotary International staff with us to share something that we do cover every once in a while, but that was definitely in depth and in detail. And I hope all of us were able to take away something from that. And we will definitely schedule you for 2.0 because I think it's totally worth our time and worth your time to spread this information correctly so we all know how to properly use it. So
that'd be
we
great.
appreciate you.
Great. Thank you. Thanks so much.
Well, if there's
really
not any
appreciate
other
your time.
questions, yeah, we will sign off. And once again, we appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Sure.
That was great.
All right. Sure. You guys get 20 minutes back for your evening, it looks like. It's so funny because sometimes these meetings go so late and I have to get cut off, and sometimes you guys got it. So I love it.
Thank you, Dan,
Thank you.
for setting it up. Great job
thanks,
as always.
Dan.
All righty. Well, thank you guys. And we'll see you soon.
Thanks
Yes,
so much.
we'll be in touch. Thank you so much. Very informative.